Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Simplify to Multiply. This is Tim Uchuk, and yesterday was a very, very long day. I decided to, in the midst of a lot of a lot of other stuff in the works, my son, who is 3.5 years old, I decided to coach his soccer. And so, soccer, if you're under 4, is basically like buzzing around a field and picking dandelions for the most part. But it was so much fun. Yesterday was a long, long day. Practice ended at like 7:30, and then I hadn't had dinner, so I had dinner and ended up cleaning up, getting the kids bathed into bed by 9 o'clock, 9:30. It was a long day, but so much fun, so much fun. But teaching these young kids the fundamentals of soccer, it was really interesting to me. It reminded me of one of our core values, and they're starting with like a blank canvas, kind of clean slate. They know nothing about soccer. And so one of our core values across our businesses is it's a Japanese term that refers to the phases that one goes through in order to attain mastery. And the 3 phases are called Shu, Ha, and Ri. So S-H-U, R-A, and then R-I, I believe. Shu, Ha, Ri. And if you've ever done like a martial art, when you first start out, you don't need to understand kind of like all the rules and backstory and context and layers behind it. Usually what the coach is going to have you do is just do it. Like Nike says, you're just going to have to kind of start by building up that muscle memory. And that's the Shu. You just do the fundamentals, and that's it. And it's funny because you think about like all of the professional sports teams, or basketball, or hockey, or even soccer. They never stop practicing the fundamentals, which is the Shu, which is that muscle memory. You are never too good to go back to fundamentals. So we did things like walking like a penguin. We pretended the ball was Ice Cube. And when you're walking like a penguin, you're teaching yourself to have your feet outwards, like as if you're kicking the ball. So I think all of the drills that we're doing this year is going to be all, obviously for under 4, it's going to be all kind of fundamentals and getting that muscle memory developed. And then you move into the Ha, which is where you don't really need to think about it anymore. It's muscle memory now. And then the final stage of mastery is, I always think about like the jazz legends like Miles Davis, who they've so mastered the laws of music that they can start to kind of play outside of the lines and kind of improvise. So that's where you can kind of bend the rules and rewrite the rules and start to innovate once you've gone from muscle memory into the final stage. And so I think, like in your business, this is a core value of ours for this very reason. Is people often think, we're all very intelligent, but they think they're like too intelligent to follow rules. And I just kind of have 2 thoughts on this. When you think about and I was given this analogy yesterday. When you think about procedures, and picture procedures and their importance, let's say at the Boeing factory where they're putting together airplanes, or at a hospital where they have to make sure that they're amputating the correct leg. Procedures are pretty important. And I think that it should be taken with the same level of seriousness in all organizations. And all it really is everybody just forms an agreement that this is how we're going to do something until we find a newer, better way. But until then, this is how we're going to do it. So when you start at, if you're starting at a new business, or you're documenting new ways of doing things, you can't improve unless you have like a baseline, an agreed upon way from which to improve it. Otherwise, what are you measuring against? You haven't developed your baseline. So that's where that kind of that Shu comes into play. And the second thing, we use this with our meetings as well. So one of the tricks that really was huge for me a couple years ago was, I swear, like every little problem the solution was, well, let's have a meeting about that. And so the meetings would spawn meetings, and it just amplified. I don't know if you've experienced this in your business, but very quickly, like half of my week was turned into meetings, and we've all been in inefficient meetings before, and you're not doing anything, right? You're just kind of consuming and brainstorming. So no value is typically being created for the most part in meetings. So if you can get good at meetings and eliminate most of them, then you should. But when it comes to the discipline of meetings, so we applied the same Shu-Ha-Ri principles to meetings, and this was like game changing. So we set up, okay, so we have to all communicate with all departments. So we've got 60 people across our organizations. And so how do we get everybody dialed in with what's going on and get 360 feedback from all departments? Well, why don't we meet once a week? We'll meet on, today's Tuesday, so I have 2 of these meetings today. They're 60 minutes. We've got a member from each department, and they've got a very structured agenda where it's just like mechanical. We start out by sharing positive wins from last week. So both personal and professional. So we'll share like what we were up to on the weekend, just to kind of calibrate everybody's energy with something positive, because it's so easy to just jump into the negative. So we start with focusing on something positive, the wins, the weekly wins. And then we move into the second most important thing is I like the idea of having transparency, so everybody kind of knows how they're doing and how the company's doing in terms of our KPIs, the numbers. So we've just got a scorecard that we check once a week, and everybody's got a number that they report out, and it's all captured there. Not just the number, but it's color coded to our target. So if red is bad, yellow's okay, and green is great. It's exceeded our target. So we do the positive, then we move into our scorecard, and then there are a couple other agenda items, which are like we do quarterly rocks or projects that we focus on just for the quarter. So we review that, and then we do some problem solving, and we close it out. Very specific agenda, and it's once per week. It's 60 minutes. And by having a very specific agenda where we just kind of are mechanical about it, we just kind of do the shoe, just maintaining that muscle memory, the fundamentals of the meeting. That's eliminated 90% of the meetings that I otherwise had, because when somebody comes to me, I just say, that's a great idea. Throw it on the agenda in our upcoming weekly leadership meeting. And that's how it works. And otherwise, we have a few other mechanisms like self-organized Scrum teams that kind of handle all the other projects, and they're self-managed, so the improvement kind of takes care of itself. But I just thought it was really cool to be teaching these these young kids who were swarming the ball and picking dandelions yesterday. But basically the entire season, which is I think 2 months every Monday, we're just going to be building that muscle memory with all the fundamentals. And I think it's no different in your organization. What it all comes down to is basically your success or failure within your business is habits and systems. So people need the right systems in place, and then they can form the right habits over top of those systems. But it's your role as the leader of the business to ensure that you kind of get what you permit. And so to have systems in place is really critical if you want to have good habits. And so when you have this revelation, if you're micromanaging, if you're working 60, 70 plus hour work weeks, it's because you don't have the right systems in place. And once you do have that in place, then that's where your world is going to open up, and you're going to experience a new level of freedom. And the ironic part is, as you let go of the reins of your business on the day-to-day stuff, increasingly you're going to find your company's going to start to grow, because you're going to be freed up to work on the more high-value, strategic leadership activities. So it's a small idea, but it's really, really powerful, and it's kind of the first step towards creating a self-managed business. So it's Shu-Ha-Ri, the levels of mastery. I hope that was helpful for you guys wherever you are. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.